And we're back.
Welcome back, everybody, to the only podcast on the internet that knows that drinking whole milk in a hot tub is probably not the most sanitary thing.
It's only going to end a disaster, and the only reason that we know that is because we are doctors.
But not doctors.
I'm Dr. Silverstein.
I'm Dr. Ramshaw.
And on this episode, we're going to talk about the arrest of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, former Prince of... Duke of York, Prince of England. And now
His
has
ex-Royal Highness, the Andrew formerly known as Prince.
The Andrew formerly known as Prince. We're also going to talk about the creation of a new political party, which we believe is called Restore Britain.
Indeed.
And its placement on the political spectrum. You'll get a prize if you figure out where it goes. Later, we're going to talk about the just announced just now, as we started recording, the SCOTUS ruling on the Trump tariff nightmare. And of course, the growing measles epidemic that is both here in the United Kingdom and also in the United States. And finally, if we get to it, Trump's ridiculous extortion project called the Board of Peace. All that and more on Doctors Not Doctors, starting right now. So, Patrick, I don't know where you were yesterday. I'm assuming that you were working hard, as you often do.
Indeed.
Did you happen to get a notification on your phone about a certain event that has taken place?
Well, I just don't know what you could possibly be referring to, Chris.
I know. I mean, it's so difficult. But for those of you who have been underneath a rock for the past decade, there's a guy named Jeffrey Epstein, or was a guy named Jeffrey Epstein, and he was a notorious sex trafficking pedophile. And he died in prison after being arrested arrested twice and put in jail.
Yeah, and the first time in 2008, where amazingly, despite having a, multiple dozen page indictment for just horrific crimes against him, the federal government under James Acosta, later to be Trump's Secretary of Commerce, or Secretary of Labor, sorry. Decided, never mind. We're going to make it one misdemeanor charge, basically. We're just going to, soliciting child prostitution. And then he can spend nights in a comfy jail, and days he can just do whatever he wants.
Just doing whatever he wants. This guy had a sweetheart deal, and he also had some interesting friends, including one Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
He did. Now, that name, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, that sounds like a man who might be related to the king.
Yes. There are Windsors out there. There's a town called Windsor in the United Kingdom.
Fair. That's a good point,
this guy was known as Prince Andrew.
Wow.
And potentially, from what reports are saying, one of the favorites of Her late Majesty, the Queen of England.
Indeed.
But
which has to kind of sting a little bit if you're Charles. Like, seriously.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I have to feel like if you're Charles, you've been, You've been good. You've been relatively well behaved for a royal.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only one small, very large public dalliance.
Yeah.
But that worked out pretty well for her.
Well, there you go. Well, exactly. Right? And so, ultimately, love finds a way.
Love finds a way.
There you go. So, yeah. But so I feel like if you're His Royal Majesty the King.
No. His Majesty, not Royal Majesty, His Majesty.
Have I got this wrong? Like, can you not say Royal Majesty?
It doesn't make any sense. You don't say Royal Majesty.
What if you're a Ducal Majesty?
A Ducal Majesty.
Can you be a Ducal Majesty?
I don't know. These are all nonsense terms created by rich people thousands of years ago because they'd kill you if you didn't say them. But you don't want to sound like a dickhead.
All right. Well, anyway.
We digress.
But so so Andrew has been, I think we can all agree, not well behaved, in the sense that he is all over the Epstein files. There are lots of pictures of him. There's a very famous picture of him with Virginia Giuffre, née Virginia Roberts. And she accused him, of course, of, sexually assaulting her. She accused him of doing this while she was under the age of 18 in the United States, in a jurisdiction in which that was very illegal.
Yes.
And he denied ever having met her.
Or sweating.
Or sweating. And he can't have met her because he does not sweat, or did not sweat, because of all the adrenaline he had in the Falklands, Chris.
Yeah, that was his claim.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Sure. So,
but then of course there were the pictures of him sweating at the time, so that's not great.
So
yeah.
But yet, for those of you again who aren't aware, the as a prince, he was subject to certain kind of unwritten or written rules about being under the same laws as the rest of us. And last month.
Weird thought that the powerful would be subject to the law, Chris.
Yes, it is a weird thought here.
I'm an American, so I'm obviously having some difficulty understanding the concept, given the current state of affairs in the United States.
But, we could get to that. We're going to get to that in a bit.
Do continue.
But he lost his title, and then surprise, surprise, not too long after him losing his title, getting kicked out of his home into a much smaller home. Well, for a royal, it's a huge house for a regular person.
Right.
The more Epstein files came out, and then it turns out that he was sharing potentially confidential trade secrets with one Jeffrey Epstein,
which is also what Mandelson did, right? What Peter
Mandelson. Also Peter Mandelson was accused of sharing information that was market sensitive to Jeffrey Epstein as well. These people are just clamoring to give him information.
This is getting to the point, right, where it's so far beyond, Jeffrey Epstein had lots of context. This is getting into Jeffrey Epstein had basically an information network.
That is clearly what's happened. Is that he has collected all sorts of information from all parts of the world, and there's bound to be more information coming out as people continue to trawl through these files. I mean, some people are saying, "Hey, look at the time that this was sent. Now look at where they said they were going." And then somebody says, "Oh, well, I couldn't have been in the files." I'm like, well, "But you were the only person who could have been at that place at that time sending that information." So there's a lot more out there, and it's very clear that Pam Bondi has the Attorney General of the United States has a lot more to answer for, but. As we've been bouncing around this idea now, Andrew.
It was his birthday yesterday.
It was his birthday, and on his birthday,
he got a nice little present there, didn't he?
He got arrested. Yeah. He got arrested by the police because of they believe that he was sharing information. When he was trade envoy, and just for some background, if you're not like the heir apparent. Like Charles was, there's not much for you to do, and so
he was wasn't he a trade representative?
That's what we're getting to.
Oh, sorry, I'm jumping on your toes.
It's not stepping on my toes, but that's a good point. It's basically there's not much for you to do. So one of the jobs he was given by the government was send this guy around. He's affable, sure, he's an arrogant prick, but he is a member of the royal family, so everybody's just going to take it as kookiness or whatever.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And he's rich enough to be eccentric, Chris.
Yes, he's rich enough to be eccentric, not crazy or a dickhead. Yes. So the government made him a trade envoy, and it is during this time that he's now being accused of sharing confidential information with Jeffrey Epstein, which is a big fat no-no. And apparently the law that he's accused of breaking isn't one. He's accused of misconduct in public office, which is a collection of just kind of a generalized, you can't do this.
It is very much the law. It's not that there's a statute. There is no statute about misconduct in public office. It is, however, a law that very much exists under England and Wales law. And that shouldn't be too surprising to you because, after all, we do have, oh my God, it's the opposite of civil law.
Common law.
Common law. Thank you very much. Well, clearly my brain is going in my old age, but it's fine. But yeah, so we have a common law system. So there's quite a large number of offenses under the law that don't exist under statute. A very famous one you may have heard of is murder. There is no statute about murder.
Yeah, well,
murder is extremely illegal in the United Kingdom.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Exactly, right?
I see what you're saying.
The fact that it's not statute does not mean that it is not law.
That you're not free to kill people. It's like there's no federal charge of murder in America.
Well, that's the thing.
But all the states have.
All the states have it, right?
First degree murder, but you can't federally murder somebody.
Yeah. And the thing is, there is a lot of jurisprudence on the subject of murder. There's very clear elements to it. The fact that it's not in statute does not mean that it doesn't exist in documents. It has been developed in the courts and in judicial decisions for 1,000 years or so. It's kind of a big deal. But so misconduct in public office is also kind of a big deal. Would you like to know what the maximum sentence is for misconduct in public office, Chris?
Please tell me.
Life in prison.
Life in prison.
Life in prison.
That's a big one.
Yeah, well, it's also the maximum sentence for murder because the United Kingdom does not have the death penalty.
Yeah.
Not anymore, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this is potentially a big deal. Now, does that mean that I expect His Highness Andrew to be sentenced to prison for life? Not necessarily. It depends on how fantastically serious his misconduct in public office is with this stuff. But I suspect that the reason why they've gone with this is that the Epstein files, the releases that have come from them, this is just prima facie a clear evidence of him having committed the crime. And the other things that he has done, the other things that he almost certainly has done, they may still be looking for evidence to fully nail down the case. And in the meantime, you really want to make clear to everybody that this man is not above the law, because like I saw just on the way over here, right? I was looking at some of the headlines in the papers at the local store, right? And one of them said that this is one of the most dangerous moments of the monarchy.
Yeah.
And I actually disagree with that.
Okay.
And the reason why is this. The monarchy as an institution is now safer than it was 2 days ago, because everyone now knows that members of the royal family are not above the law. People are much more likely to be willing to continue to have a monarchy in this country if they believe that the members of the royal family are subject to the same laws as the rest of us. Because if people thought that they were above the law, I don't think most British people would be okay with that. That would be a potential danger for the monarchy, because then it really becomes, well, either they go or we do, you know?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think this is a watershed moment for the monarchy. Because there have been several massive controversies over the past 40 years now.
Yeah.
The death of Diana, the divorce of Charles and Diana, that wasn't supposed to happen. You're not supposed to get divorced in the perfect family, because
who do you think you are, Richard VIII or Henry VIII?
Henry VIII. Well, the thing is like some people are saying, and I'm not one of these people, that you know the royal family is supposed to be the paragon of Britishness, and you know if your family is doing really trash, you'd be like, hey guys, hey, look over there at the royal family. Look at what they're doing. Look at how great they are. You know, this, that, and the other. To which I disagree. For the first time this week, I viewed the royal family, specifically Mountbatten Windsor, as like a European royal family. I don't know if you know the difference here. Like Sweden has a royal family, Norway has a royal family, Denmark has a royal family, and they just look like regular rich people.
Yeah, so some of them didn't even take the subway.
Yeah, some of them, and I think the king of
some of them are friends with Jeffrey Epstein. It turns out.
Yeah, some of them are friends with Jeffrey Epstein, but some of them fly planes. You know, so it's like they have a they might have this title, but it is very much very ceremonial, right? As opposed to here, where like Americans, whether you like it or lump it, we definitely idolize the British royal family, because they speak English, and it's like Disney World come to life. And I'm serious.
Exactly. But that's the thing. It's because in America we have celebrities, whereas in the United Kingdom, mostly you have presenters, but then you've also got the royal family, which, you know, takes up, I think, most of that space. Yeah. And because Americans, like, you know, we've got celebrities, but they're not royals. And Americans really kind of want royals. Well, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's some Americans who I think believe, like, there's some Americans who are just have deference to these people who are born into a position, a place that you can never get to. And that's kind of one of the great things about America, is that there's no position you really can't get to. I mean, you need a lot of luck in some cases, but like no British person born in this country can ever be the head of state of the United Kingdom. There are Germans who have closer ties and chances to be the head of state of the United Kingdom than somebody who was born in Peckham or something.
100%.
Right? But in the United States, you can have somebody born in Little Rock, Arkansas. You know, or wherever Lyndon B. Johnson was born. I think some like Shack in freaking Texas.
Absolutely.
And they can rise to be the president of the United States. So I think that Americans, for whatever reason, are like, oh, wow, it's so cool that you have this inbuilt, you know, hereditary monarchy that we also don't want. But it's really cool to watch. You will go over there like, there's Buckingham Palace.
Well, it's like, look at so much of American culture. And like, you know, it's fantasy series, like it's science fiction series. So much of it comes down to like Americans playing around with the idea of bloodlines, right?
And monarchy.
Yeah. Well, to the point where, like, consider Star Wars, dude.
Yeah.
Like Star Wars, which ended up being all about like the fucking Skywalker family. Like they were royalty.
Yeah. Something else we should talk about as well is the Epstein fiasco and disaster. I mean, obviously we talked about last week Pam Bondi and how horrible she was to the victims. And obviously there's still not much happening for the victims. But in the United Kingdom, there's something happening. Now, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor was not arrested in relation to anything he has done on the island, nor was he arrested for anything in relation to anything sexual.
Yes.
It was specifically because of the allegations of
misconduct in public office.
Misconduct in public office. So it's kind of like Capone with tax fraud, right? But that's only and of course we should always declare that Andy Mountbatten Windsor said all this is nonsense and he didn't do any of it. And I think we have actually said it. He's negated it, or he's said it. He's talked against it. But the issue is like, think about it like this. So we have a president. We have the head of commerce in America. We have the richest people in the world who affected American elections. All those people are sleeping well tonight.
Oh yeah.
And yet people are getting arrested and kicked out of their jobs left and right now in the United Kingdom. So we had people I've listened to people say, take that, U.S. Constitution. The unwritten Constitution is superior. And I was like, guys, you were so close to keeping me on side. But that simply isn't what's happening here.
Well, that's the thing, right? So like on the one hand, the unwritten Constitution of the United Kingdom is not it's not necessarily less powerful than a written constitution. A written constitution is not necessarily more powerful than an unwritten one. What I think we're sort of seeing here is the very thing that makes constitutions, written or unwritten, feasible in the first place, right? So like, and I think where a written constitution is valuable is how it affects this thing that underlies the power of both, which is ultimately what people do when those constitutions are violated. It's the responses to violations of the constitutions that determine whether a constitution is powerful, right?
Yeah.
So like people often say, right, that like the unwritten Constitution of Britain, it's all a bunch of norms. And this is true.
It is true.
Yeah. And does that mean that that's less powerful than, a written constitution? Maybe, maybe not. And I think we disagree on this. So
we do disagree.
Let's unpack this.
Okay.
Give me your argument for written constitutions over unwritten constitutions.
So a written constitution can be enforced. An unwritten constitution needs someone to enforce it. The laws are the parts of the Constitution that you're trying to enforce. One of which, the biggest issue is that they can be easily changed. So without entrenchment, and entrenchment means you basically it's very, very difficult to change this particular law, right? And most most constitutions around the world are entrenched, as in it takes a 2/3, a very big process,
right? Some kind of
amendment.
Super majority, more than just. Although interestingly enough, there are some countries where it's just a simple majority to be able to change things,
which weakens the entire argument. But the problem with the idea that I have about constitutions is that everybody can point to that thing and say in black and white, you cannot do this. Right. And therefore anyone can say you have broken this rule and therefore we're going to go after you. Without a written constitution, you have to hope that whoever is in charge tries to enforce the law on your behalf, whereas you can try to do it yourself. Now, we'll probably get to this at the end, but I do understand that no law is as strong as the person who's using it. What I'm trying to say, that doesn't make sense. The law is only as strong as its last use, right?
Right.
But in this case, so many people can use the law, as opposed to in the UK for the unwritten constitution. If you wanted to have a go at Boris Johnson, for example, good luck. If you want to like again, because like, what law did he actually break? Or if he did break a law, who's going to hold him accountable for it? Or something like impeachment, right? You can't just you can try to do a no confidence clause. We can get into all the details of that later, but it is a lot more complicated to try to enact, for lack of a better term, justice without relying heavily on either the executive doing it for you. In this country, it is the executive that would have to take the power in their hands. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and I think everything that you've said is absolutely true, right? However, I do think that doesn't necessarily lead to the conclusion that written constitutions are always stronger than unwritten ones.
Yeah.
And I think the sort of things that you're pointing out here are exactly what you want to look at to see where a constitution, written or unwritten, is going to be sustainable, is going to be, defensible. So you point out that in unwritten constitutions, you need the executive basically to enforce it, to enforce law, to enforce, situations where that that unwritten constitution's been broken. And if it's the executive itself that's engaged in that process, then what do you do about that?
Yeah.
Now, we actually do have an example of that very thing happening under Boris Johnson in this country. You remember when Boris Johnson was dealing with Brexit and basically tried to prorogue Parliament to prevent them from having a vote on his proposed Brexit deal.
That's right.
Now, the Prime Minister has the power to do this, to prorogue Parliament. Well, not
correction. He has the power to. There you go.
Right. Yeah. And so that's the thing. What he is doing is using the Crown's prerogative powers to do it. But
he has to ask the Crown permission to do it.
Exactly right. His job is to advise the monarch, and then the monarch takes that advice. Right. So you can't say the king doesn't have the power to prorogue Parliament, because the monarch absolutely does. However, when the monarch is being advised to do this, they're not exercising their own independent political judgment. They're relying upon the advice of the Prime Minister. And if the Prime Minister offers that advice illegally, fraudulently, as the case may be, well, then there's a real question of, does this mean that the Crown's powers have been abused, not by the monarch, but by the Prime Minister? And in fact, that's exactly what the court case that came out of that was attempting to show. And the courts did rule in favor of sorry, what was the name of the woman who did that? Gina.
We'll get back to that.
Exactly. She's awesome. Very, just a really, really influential person in terms of constitutional law in this country. Gina Raimondo? No. That's somebody else. But yeah, so she was also the one behind one of the earlier Brexit cases that came out.
Miller.
Gina Miller, thank you. Oh my God, I feel like such an idiot. But yeah, so Gina Miller. So we have this situation then where the courts were asked to intervene, and they did say, actually, this is an abuse of the Crown's prerogative power, and therefore the prorogation did not happen. So the fact that you do need the executive to enforce these things doesn't imply that the courts don't have a role and that the courts cannot be determinative.
Yeah.
So we have that. We also have the fact that in the United States, where you do have a written constitution, we have had exactly that problem of the Trump administration has violated the Constitution left and right. The Constitution can't enforce itself. It has to be enforced. And the executive, which would be doing the enforcing, is actively engaged in unconstitutional behavior, to the point where courts have consistently ruled against the executive and said, you are doing unconstitutional things. You are arresting people and keeping them in prison without having a legal authority to do that. You need to let these people go immediately. And then the administration has just been like, no. We refuse to release from jail these American citizens that we've locked up for no legal reason. So, this is getting to the point where some courts are actually starting to hold government lawyers in contempt of court. Yeah. Which at the moment is like, one judge has said, you're in contempt of court, so you got to pay $500 every single day until you release these people. And I got to say, that's very small beer, dude. Like, the courts really need to step up in the United States, because all that government lawyer has to do is set up a GoFundMe, and there will be millions of fascists very willing to crowdfund that person paying those fees, because ultimately for criminals, fines are a cost of doing business.
Yeah, I mean, and I get what you're saying. I think that, ultimately it comes down to the power of the enforcer, right? And that doesn't matter whether you have a written constitution or not. I would say this, though. Yeah. That case, the Miller versus Secretary of State, or Miller versus Prime Minister case, that then led to the government changing the law to put an ouster clause in the Dissolution Calling of Parliaments Act of 2022, which is effectively saying that if Parliament is prorogued or closed down, one of those options, the courts are not allowed to look at this, and then that creates this big question mark about will it hold up in court? Right. Whereas with the Constitution, if you tried to write that clause and it was against the Constitution itself, it wouldn't have even become a law. But it is currently the law of the land that if somebody calls, if the government calls an election, it's not an election, if they prorogue Parliament or dissolve Parliament, judiciary
doesn't get to review
is legally prevented from doing so through the law.
Yeah.
And then you're going to bring up the thing, because we talk about this a lot.
Exactly.
We talk about this
and so,
a lot.
Like, anismetic, but we'll leave that alone for the moment, because I do want to point out that there are some ways in which having it in black and white is no guarantee that the courts won't find ways of getting around it to the detriment of the people.
And that is true. That is true. The law is not perfect, and it's not a perfect protection. The people are a perfect protection.
That's the thing. That's the thing. You know where I'm going with this. But I do want to point out, for those of you who are not aware, the history of the 14th Amendment in the United States. Now, the 14th Amendment, this is one of the three Reconstruction Amendments. The 13th Amendment abolishes slavery. The 14th Amendment extends equal protection under law. The 15th Amendment extends the right to vote to African American men. Women get the vote much later on because, America. But so the 14th Amendment explicitly states, amongst other things, that there's no such thing as second-class citizenship. If you are born in the United States, and you're subject to the laws thereof, then you are an American citizen. And it's an equality before the law thing. It's really, really important. And yet, almost in the immediate aftermath of this, by the time you get to the 1870s, all the way up to the 1960s, for almost 100 years, you have a series of Supreme Courts very willing to say, actually, that's not really what the 14th Amendment says. We think what it really means is that corporations are people, and that you cannot restrict interstate commerce.
Yeah.
And they did this on the basis of no law. They did not do this on the basis of anything in the 14th Amendment per se. They just sort of redefined what the words meant because, well, they wanted it to mean something different. So,
but this is why, as much as I do, I think that, everyone's safer with the written Constitution. It doesn't mean that you can just turn your brain off, stop paying attention, because this stuff happened in America over, the past 40 years, using things. And it was almost like try and stop me. And nobody cared because, well, you can't do that because it's not constitutional. Well, prove it and keep them out of office. But a lot of people just shut their eyes and close their ears. And so this debate will go on and on and on. But I think that the arrest of Mountbatten Windsor, I don't think it's like a proof that, how great the unwritten Constitution is. It is a proof, though, of the capacity that when you want something done, it can get done. And in America, clearly, nobody wants anything done right now who are in charge. Trust me, if Keir Starmer didn't want Mountbatten Windsor arrested, he wouldn't be arrested, right? But in America, Pam Bondi, she clearly doesn't want anything to touch Trump, and he's wandering around saying, "Oh, I'm totally exonerated." Total horseshit. Right. So but that's what I'm saying. It's very clear.
Well, so I think what is it then that explains the sort of difference between where? Okay, and I did want to make this point actually. One of the things I absolutely agree with you on is that if you have a written Constitution, it is much easier to make the political argument to people that the Constitution has been violated when it has been violated.
Yeah.
If it's an unwritten one, it's not impossible.
It's a feeling.
It's a vibe.
Yeah, you can't, if you violate the unwritten Constitution, you shouldn't do that.
Right. And that may be very powerful if people have a very strong sense of, well, that just isn't done, dear boy. That can be the kind of thing that sparks political outrage, that causes political backlash, that causes those in power to think again, in the famous phrase, right? Yeah. And if you've got a written Constitution, I think it's a little bit easier to be able to make the claim to people that, oh, no, this is bullshit, and here's exactly why, and you can check it out. And that might also be the kind of thing that sparks political outrage, and that causes political opposition, causes those in power to think again. Yeah. But ultimately, what it comes down to is simply, what is it that people are looking for that says to them, oh, no, something's gone wrong. This is outside the bounds of normality, and therefore this is something that we got to push back against as a whole. And I think what we're seeing in the United Kingdom is that there is that strong sense amongst people that, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has transgressed. He has clearly gone beyond the bounds of what is allowable or acceptable. The monarch King Charles understands fully well that this is the situation. And so the monarch, and I think this is to his credit, put out a statement saying the law must be upheld.
Yeah.
He is not going to be doing the Trump thing of pardoning his brother, even though he has the power to do it.
And he's not saying, oh, this is so sad.
Right.
Right.
Oh my God. Yeah. So Donald Trump obviously is on the side of Andrew. Shockingly, can't imagine why. Also, he wishes, Ghislaine Maxwell well for some reason. But yeah, so I think what we're sort of seeing here is that it's not so much that this is a big fillip for, the unwritten constitution in the United Kingdom. I think what this really is just, an absolute shame and scandal for the United States, that it shows how low that country has sunk, how utterly bereft of principle too many of the people who run the United States have become, and how unwilling to confront that fact too many of the people who are in the United States have become.
Yeah. We've talked enough about this. We've kind of run out of time to talk about Restore Britain, so we'll put that into a short later. But we're going to take a little bit of a break, and we will come right back after this. And we're back.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time for us to turn our attention across the pond to the United States, where the rule of law has clearly ceased to be, and where a giant banner of Trump's face now adorns the Department of Justice.
Yeah. Let's just real quick. Didn't Il Duce do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
that's a famous thing where it says CCC or whatever around his face. Yeah.
This is
that's Mussolini, in case you were unaware.
This is dictator shit.
Yeah.
It's shocking.
Like, why is his face on the Department of Justice? I mean, obviously, what a cool troll, man. He trolls people so hard. And trolling.
Can we just all as a society agree that when someone is trolling you by being a Nazi, they're just being a Nazi?
You just don't understand, man.
Like, there's no joke to it. It's not like, haha, I'm not really a fascist. I'm just pretending for it for the lulz. Like, no, trolls are real. They're on purpose. They do that for a reason. This is not a
troll. This is softening you up until you're just like, oh, well, it was funny. Now we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this. Just came out. We're recording this on the 20th of February, and Trump has lost in the Supreme Court. Just like I have said, I am not a lawyer. But as I said, the Supreme Court will not allow you to mess with the money.
Yes. And this is one of those situations, right, where the fact that what Trump was doing was so clearly against the law was not necessarily a guarantee that the Supreme Court was going to rule against him.
Absolutely not.
Instead, what was the guarantee the Supreme Court was ruled against him was you don't mess with the money.
You don't mess with the money, and he was messing with the money. So if you recall back to almost a year ago, Trump implemented his, Liberation Day tariffs, which were, and I think it's important to take note of this, they were hot garbage. It was like the Liberation Day.
Look, man, those penguins have taken advantage of the United States consumer for too long.
Absolutely. I mean, the entire math behind, the entire math behind the tariff deficit, the trade deficit.
Yeah.
So it's just like, oh, your country trades this much with us and we don't get that much back, and therefore, and there's a blanket 10% tariff across the entire country.
Yep, including on countries that had a trade surplus with the United States, such as Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
That's right. Yeah. And then, of course, you implemented tariffs against countries where we had free trade, like Mexico. And Canada.
Yep.
So
because when you signed a treaty with Donald Trump, you haven't signed a thing. Like, you can't make an agreement with this man. He's the one who put forward the free trade agreement with Canada and Mexico in his first administration, and that's the one that he later claimed was written by morons and clearly was just ripping off the United States, and that's why he had to impose all these extra tariffs.
Yeah.
It's because he doesn't recognize the concept of contracts. Like, I don't know how to explain this any better to people, but you can't make a deal with him any more than you could make a deal with Hitler at Munich.
Well, yeah, there's no piece of paper to take home, and people have tried. Now, basically, what's happened is that the central tenet of one of Trump's economic policies is now in tatters. Now, it hasn't gotten rid of all the tariffs that have been leveled in the past year. There are other tariffs which I'm sure have been done legally, but the ones that were not done legally under the IEPA, IEPA, the International and Emergency Economic Powers Act. It does not authorize the president to the Supreme Court has declared that it does not authorize the president to impose tariffs under that act because it requires there to be some kind of emergency. And the emergency was that Lutnick wanted to look cool, and Trump wanted to say,
Trump wanted tariffs.
Trump wanted tariffs. Again, this is the politics and economics of the 1980s and even the 1880s.
Oh my God!
It was just utter nonsense when it was brought up, and it was very obvious that it just didn't make any sense. But at the time, you were wondering, would the Supreme Court back him? But in the interim, it became very clear that the Supreme Court loves money.
Yeah. Well, what should be shocking to people is that 3 of the justices ruled in Trump's favor. So 3 of them are fine with him fucking with the money. And these are Thomas, Alito, and Kavanaugh. Yeah. Which is weird. Because Kavanaugh,
loves beer.
He loves beer. And also he, may have done some things in his youth that, I don't know. I'm not going to get into it, but
didn't work out for him.
I despise that man. For a variety of reasons. But this is one of those situations basically where if 1/3 of the Supreme Court is willing to say, actually, the president can totally just raise his own money. He doesn't need Congress to raise money, to raise taxes. Then that's 1/3 of the Supreme Court that basically has decided that the Constitution just doesn't exist.
Doesn't need to exist.
Because you cannot have a constitutional republic with a separation of powers, where the legislature has the power of the purse, which is what the United States is and has been, and still also decide that, and also the president could just, raise his own taxes for funsies.
But I mean, that they probably are believers in the unitary presidential authority or whatever it's called.
The unitary executive theory.
The unitary executive
which
theory.
Is, for the record, hot legal garbage. There is no support for this whatsoever in the history, the politics, or the legal theories of the United States. It is bullshit that was created in the 1980s in order to, and Heather Cox Richardson, who is just a fucking star, she goes into this in some detail in one of her recent videos, basically on YouTube. So go check it out.
But basically, the unitary executive theory is this idea that basically the founders created the presidency to mimic an authoritarian monarch. Now, the founders of the United States of America, who famously fought a war to break away from a monarchy, created a head of state, which was supposed to be all-encompassing, all-powerful, and only takes advice from these other institutions. The fact that it was designed in the 80s is also very interesting and also important because that was never, a lot of people were doing cocaine back then.
That's a fair point.
But more importantly and more seriously, that was about the time where this whole Republicans, other strategies really started to pick up its steam. This whole
well, that's the thing. The shift in the Republican Party away from the sort of country club Republicans under, say, Eisenhower, and towards the all culture war all the time elements that you started getting under Richard Nixon. Yeah, you're right. The 1980s under Ronald Reagan. This is really a big moment for that. And there's a very famous document called the Powell Memo. And this is, I believe, 1976, more or less. So Lewis Powell, who was a Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, and also, a rock-ribbed, hyper-conservative right-wing Republican, puts out a memo basically arguing for businesses investing significant amounts of money into the political process in order to, get their own people elected, in order to keep the leftists from gaining more power. It's basically a document for a right-wing takeover of American politics. Which was then followed by a right-wing takeover of American politics. So, pretty successful memo as things go, right?
As memos go.
Yeah. So the 1980s, that's when you start seeing the the second phase of this, and the number one name to associate, by the way, with the extension of this idea of the unitary executive is Bill Barr, who you may know as Donald Trump's attorney general from his first term in office. But so for those of you keeping track at home, the unitary executive theory argues that the separation of powers means that the legislature has no control over the executive, and presumably the executive has no control of the legislature, and the three powers are just completely all powerful.
Independent organizations.
Independent, all powerful in their own realms, meaning there's no such thing as checks and balances.
Yeah.
Which you may notice is the exact opposite of everything you have ever been taught about how the American system works from when you were 5, if you're an American.
Which also doesn't make any sense because there is no, as far as I can remember, there is no article of the Constitution that allows the president to raise his own money.
Oh, literally none.
It's the president is the second part of the Constitution.
Yeah.
Congress is
Article
the first.
2. Exactly. And Article 1, the one that says that there will be a Congress, and here's how it'll work, also explicitly says all taxation bills originate in the House. The Congress has the power of the purse. This is not something that you can argue, oh, well, if you just read it this way, if you hold it that way and squint, if we just, erase these few words here and there.
If I just write a new Constitution, then you'll see it right there in the new one.
Right, exactly. This is just flat out, we're going to pretend the Constitution says something it says, it not just that it doesn't say, but that it explicitly says is wrong. So, and if you can do that to a document and still claim that that document exists and is being followed, then I refuse to believe that you are engaged in the process of law. I think you're just engaged in the process of dictatorship at that point.
Yeah, and that is clear. That's clear. That's what's happening, at least on that side of the aisle, with that side, that with those kind of people. Not all Republicans, because obviously there are Republicans out there who are more of the country club set.
Oh, absolutely,
but there's still, Constitution works, and we should be doing that. But I think we should end this section on just give out what are your expectations out of 10 that Trump actually follows the rules this time?
I can answer that very easily. 0. Donald Trump will not obey the law because Donald Trump does not obey the law. Donald Trump is a convicted felon. He's an adjudicated rapist. He has consistently had his administration ignore court rulings. He has committed murder and piracy on the high seas. He is a tyrant in the sense that he rules without regard to the law. And this has been the case for, a whole year now. No one's under any misapprehensions about this, right? So he's going to keep breaking the law. And the only question is what the courts are going to do about it. And I think they're going to have to start holding not just government lawyers before them and forcing them to pay fines after holding them in contempt. I think they're going to have to start holding in cabinet secretaries, forcing them to actually speak under oath, and then holding them to account if they prevaricate, if they commit a fraud upon the court, if they fail to follow court orders. It has to go to the high ups,
Yeah. I also we'll have to wait and see how the administration reacts to this, and because obviously they've made a lot of money out of tariffs from Americans. Let's never forget that a tariff is a tax on the consumer. Over everything else. I mean, sure, Walmart could choose to absorb the costs of the 110 or 15 or 20% tariffs that were leveled against Chinese goods.
But
or
why would they?
Or they could pass it on to the consumer and continue to make money.
Well, that's the thing. There is an economic argument that under certain circumstances, tariffs are primarily paid for by foreign manufacturers who are trying to sell to your country, selling at a loss, or at least accepting a huge bite in their profits in order to maintain the market and still be competitive. But that does not look like it's happening here. In fact, there was just a study that came out that said that Trump's tariffs cost the average American family $1,000 last year.
Per family.
Yeah.
And let's not even get into the depth of how much it's cost farmers.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Which the tariffs absolutely decimated.
Yeah. Well,
or eviscerated that industry.
Who needs an agricultural industry in the United States? It's not like they're politically powerful, or
they voted they voted very much for Trump.
They sure did.
Again, and then we've already
Turkeys
spent
sometimes vote for Christmas.
Did we not spend almost $12 billion bailing them out?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because of the tariffs. Now the tariffs might go away.
Well, so we got to pay extra money for the tariffs that are killing our farmers. So we got to pay extra money to the farmers because of the tariffs that we're paying for. We're paying money to pay money. We're paying a price on a price.
This is a price on a price. This is not great economics. But let's move on to our next topic. And I think we start our next topic with the idea that after you work out in jeans, you jump into a jacuzzi.
Absolutely.
And chug a glass of whole milk.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I'm going to look that up real quick.
Go for it. Like, here's the thing, right? Like, if you are drinking a glass of milk after the age of like 14, what are you doing? What are you doing, man?
You're allowed to drink milk.
I know.
That part is fine.
But like, I don't know, man. I just like a whole big glass of milk is just kind of like, I don't know. Milk is for babies and coffee.
So now we've learned a lot more about Patrick's nutrition, and we're going to have an offline conversation about that.
It's okay. I eat cheese, man. I got my cheese.
But we are, of course, referring to the ridiculous video of RFK and Kid Rock hanging out with each other shirtless, doing a bunch of workout routines, which, for whatever reason, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has to work out in his jeans.
Yes. Yes.
Which I don't think it's ever explained why he can't put on sweatpants or shorts. He has to work out in a pair of jeans all the time.
I am forced to assume, Chris, that this is because if you were to see his legs in their unclad form, then your brain would escape out the side of your ears as your, mind reckoned with the, cosmic horrors that lay therein.
He stared directly into the abyss there.
Exactly, right?
There's two things here with this whole milk thing. There's a problem with whole milk, and it isn't the fact that these two guys are drinking it in a hot tub, which again makes little fucking sense. In a hot tub.
Like, it's not like, okay, if you're going to steam milk and have it in your Frappuccino, that is one thing, right? But if you're just going to have
the most middle class thing you said all day.
Warm milk, because that milk is in a hot tub. It is getting warm.
Yeah.
It is a warm milk, and that is fucking weird.
Yeah, the whole thing is weird, but then this is why it's actually twigging my brain. It's because there is a white nationalist trope about whole milk.
Yeah, of course. They like white things.
It's not about white things. It's that only the pure white race can process the lactose.
Oh, fuck.
And that's why they call people soy boys, from what I understand.
Right.
So
yes.
to end your half-naked geriatric workout routine with potentially a giant dog whistle to the white nationalist community tells me everything I need to know about the guy who's in charge of American health and the star of the Turning Point USA halftime show, which just feature an astounding amount of lip syncing.
Oh, that's Now, Kid Rock denies there was any lip syncing. It was actually a huge problem with like the camera people, because the camera people didn't note that they're supposed to be also showing the DJ, who was also like, because he's only saying the bobbity ba thing like half the times, and the other half the times it's supposed to be the other guy. And so but they didn't know. And so the real problem is just, rank incompetence, Chris, by everybody, which is so much better.
That's a great explanation.
For TV USA.
That's a great explanation.
Yeah.
But there is an actual bigger issue here that we will talk about, other than two shirtless
white nationalists.
Legend.
Here's okay. I'm just going to say it. RFK Jr. is a eugenicist. The administration is white supremacist. Elon Musk started off this whole thing last January with fucking 2 Sieg Heils to the crowd.
Yeah.
They're not hiding it.
No.
It's well past time for us to stop pretending that this is all trolling. No, they're serious. They mean it. They're just trying to be funny and edgy about it while also doing Nazi shit.
Yeah.
So I don't think that whole milk situation was like, I don't think that was a sop to the dairy industry. I think that was literally just them vice signaling to the Nazis.
Vice signaling.
Well, yeah, because it's vice signaling.
But On another point, which we wanted to talk about, there is a very serious thing happening right now, and that is the outbreak of measles in the United States. And that
hasn't gone away? That hasn't just
measles hasn't gone away. And actually what we're finding over the past 2 months is that the rates are raising like exponentially.
What? Like almost spreading like a virus?
Almost spreading like a virus.
And my God, who could have seen that coming?
Well, everyone, especially if you had been following Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s history as about a year ago, when we started talking about who was going to be in Trump's cabinet. We talked about RFK and how was it Tonga that he had gone to?
No, I think it was American Fiji. No, it wasn't American Samoa. American Samoa.
Yeah. So, like as we said last year, he had basically convinced the government or something of American Samoa to tell them that the measles vaccine was dangerous for your kids.
Yeah, well, because what had happened, right, was that there was, thanks to a screw up by a medical professional, a nurse, I believe, who had improperly prepared a batch of measles vaccine. Some kids who got the measles vaccine got sick. Right. And that's bad. That's clearly a bad situation. Right. I think it was like 3 kids. And, so the government of American Samoa was, concerned for obvious reasons. RFK Jr., being an opportunist shark, immediately swims towards the chum and starts telling the government of American Samoa that this is because all vaccines are dangerous and the measles vaccine is especially dangerous. And that's why you should not get the measles vaccine for your kids. And this was then spread out to the population of American Samoa, and a bunch of parents decided not to vaccinate their children against measles. And then measles spread, and I think something around 48 people died, and most of them were children under 5.
Yeah, that's true. And so what's happening now in the States is that, as far as we can tell, the most recent information says that there have been 588 cases of measles in the United States. Which is, measles was under control in America. Everybody got an MMR vaccine, but it was basically
like it didn't exist in the United States, and every once in a while, someone would get it, bring it home from abroad, and then it would not spread.
I wouldn't say it didn't exist in the United States. It did exist, but in very small pockets, not isolated, but very small pockets of certain communities who, for religious reasons, did not get the vaccine.
Right.
So
for the record, if you've I don't know what an actual religious reason to not get a vaccine would be, unless you're say Christian Scientist, in which case you don't believe in medicine.
That's a religious reason to get it because your religion says no.
Yeah, but that's still, I'm sorry, that's still nonsense. That's still just nonsense.
So it's breaking out in the United States. It's breaking out in the United Kingdom, but it's part of a larger this anti-vax trend, which is tied in with MAGA, which is tied in with the conspiracy theory,
the wellness industry,
the wellness industry. Hell, all of RFK stuff, Make America Healthy Again, which
exactly
take some of the chemicals out of food, sure, but then again,
but that's the thing, right? It starts off with that. That's how you get people in the door. But the whole point of getting them in the door is to then convince them that actually medicine is bad for you, and actually vaccines are the devil, and actually if you're just pure enough you can defeat any illness. And so basically it's just eugenics.
It's just this idea that
let the weak stock die off.
Well, that's what I was getting when we were going through COVID.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember the first. I don't know if you remember the first couple of weeks of COVID, but there were the videos coming out from Fox News of people saying, maybe it's time for the poor, the old, to die.
Yeah.
That would that's. I'm not making that up. That's a real thing somebody said on Fox News. It's because we need to keep the economy moving.
Yep.
And if people have to die for that, then that's rough. But there's this clear.
Boris Johnson was reported during the time of saying maybe having COVID rip through the nursing homes wasn't quite so bad and whatnot because just sort of clear out the dead wood, all that kind of thing, meaning your grandmother, and we've all kind of agreed to forget about that.
Yeah, that is huge. That we've actively tried to pretend that 2020 to effectively 2022 didn't happen.
Yeah.
That we weren't trapped in our homes and we weren't, prevented from living our lives because the governments of the United States and the United Kingdom just pretended like COVID didn't exist at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Like there are countries like New Zealand specifically, who they just shut their borders for like 2 years.
That's true.
But they acted quickly, and the United States could have acted quickly. They let people off of cruise ships who clearly had COVID. They just pretend and this is all happening at the end of Trump's first term.
Well, yeah, because and Trump was very clear at the time that, he didn't want them following the progress of the disease. He didn't want them doing any research on like where it is and therefore acting to stop it, because that would make the numbers go up, and he didn't want the numbers to go up.
Yeah.
So as long as you don't count the cases of illness, they don't exist.
Well, true. If you don't write it down, it doesn't happen.
Exactly. There you go.
But obviously, but you see, when people are dying in your home, they're running into the hospital, and your hospital's overrun with people trying to breathe. Then reality hits the wall very quickly. But we're in this very weird period in the United States where old illnesses are coming back with a blast because these grifters are making tons of money off of these. I'm going to be generous here and just say scared parents who basically only want the best for their kids. I believe that these parents who don't want to vaccinate their kids, they believe that it's the best option for their kids because, their bodies are the best. But Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, friend of the pod.
Indeed.
He said something the other. I heard. I may have repeated it on the pod before, but basically it said up until like the 1900s or the late 1800s, human life expectancy hadn't moved. Something like 40 or 50 years old. And then he's like, as soon as we got to the point where we started understanding what germs were, cleaning the bathrooms, cleaning our food, washing your hands, between basically the late 1800s and the early 1900s, our life expectancy on average jumped massively because of drugs, vaccines, and washing your hands.
Basic public health and sanitation and medicine. And this is the thing, right? Like, what people often have this utterly mistaken idea that back in the Middle Ages, everyone died at 40, right? If you were like 60, my God, you were ancient and totally rare. And no, that wasn't fucking true. It's that half of everyone died before they were 5. Half of every human being died before they hit the age of 5. That is what the reality was until vaccines, until medicine,
that was
until
the 1950s.
Like, seriously, like you go to any cemetery, right, that was laid down before, let's say the 1920s, right, and you just count the number of gravestones for babies, and you just look at that proportion, and you begin to realize what medicine did for us. And you think about these sons of bitches in the wellness industry who are trying to drag us back into the muck. They are literally threatening the lives of millions of children. It's evil, and they do it for money.
For cash. It's only for cash. And when they get busted, they run.
Yeah,
they run.
Of course.
And this is really interesting. Why? Because you were telling me about a guy who's now trying to change his colors mid row.
Oh yes.
Because it's been American policy to say a lot of crazy shit like aspirin causes autism, and these are real things that the health department has said, and that you shouldn't be taking the measles vaccine. But now you have one person who's saying maybe take it.
Yeah.
Who's been saying that?
So this is Dr. Mehmet Oz, and Dr. Oz.
The infamous Dr. Oz.
The infamous Dr. Oz. One of the several things that honestly Oprah has to answer for at some point. Him and Dr. Phil. I'm sorry, but like Oprah, love her. So many things she did great. Those two people that she dragged into the American consciousness and planted there forever. Yeah, that's something she should probably apologize
We are happy to be the counterbalance to Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz.
You're right, exactly. We're the doctors, not doctors, whereas they are.
They're not doctors.
They really shouldn't be doctors. They're the doctors who should not be doctors.
The doctors who should not be doctors.
Exactly. But yeah, so Dr. Oz very famously has been a big part of the wellness industry, very big into the whole the medical industry doesn't want you to know this hip secret or whatever. He also ran for Senate in Pennsylvania, and lost to John Fetterman, mostly because he didn't know how to pronounce the word crudité, and also he tried to use the word crudité, which is
in a political ad in Pennsylvania.
Like, sweet Jesus, man. Like, anyway.
Yeah.
So he got brought into the Health and Human Services Department under RFK Jr., to do the whole grift thing. And very recently, and I think in the last week, he apparently took a look at the measles numbers and realized, oh no, this has gotten out of hand. This is spreading like wildfire, and it's going to be a problem. So he actually just put out a statement saying, hey, everyone, get your measles vaccine. Yes. Vaccines, questionable. And, not everyone needs them. And some people are just really healthy. But also get your measles vaccine.
Yeah.
Because measles is fucking horrible, guys.
And I want to correct one thing. I had said that the cases were at something about 500, but I'm looking at new data right now. It's saying it's over 1,000 cases in 2026, and it is February 20th.
Chris, my question would be, how out of date was the 500 number? Because considering how exponential growth works, you might not that be out of date.
I think I know what you're saying, and just so you know, like having 1,000 cases of measles, I mean, I think that's more cases than we had in 2022 or 2020
and already it's February,
and it's only February now, and
it's exploding. It's exploding.
We're going to have an epidemic of measles in the United States, and the other things that you get when you get that shot are mumps and rubella. So we need to move on. Because we can go on and on and on about this. But the last thing we want to talk about, and I'll let Patrick take the little lead on this. And just for a few minutes, and I will cut you off because we have been going long.
That's good. That's for the best.
But today was the first meeting of Trump's Board of Peace.
That is true.
Billionaire Board of Peace.
Yes, Donald Trump was able to get all of his best friends in a room, and he was able to stand up and put forward his vision of an alternative to the United Nations, where pro-Trump countries come together and listen to him sort of free associate for 40 minutes before he has a nice little nap in the middle of the meeting.
This is the much vaunted Trump Board of Peace, which is currently filled with, at best, a lot of competitive authoritarian countries or fully authoritarian countries.
Hey, Belarusia is... Oh, right.
Belarus.
Belarus. I'm sorry. Is
what the last dictatorship in Europe?
At least it was called the last dictatorship in Europe, but I think that was before Orban really got his claws into Hungary at the time.
That's another thing we can talk about at a different date about where he's going. But long story short, we've had this meeting. It's a ridiculous situation where Trump is trying to create a counter to the United Nations. No one reasonable is a part of this group. Today the Vatican said they weren't going to be a part of the group.
Because why the hell? Why would you join?
Why would Pope Leo do that?
Right?
That's insane.
Exactly.
But it is a ridiculous concept, but it is still quite a dangerous concept because these people have careful. Access, probably unfettered and unsupervised access to the president of the United States, who is the permanent chair of that board. It's it's effectively a private organization.
He's got his own He-Man Woman Haters Club. He's president and dictator for life. And it should be pointed out, according to the rules, as I understand them, it is not that the president of the United States is the permanent head of the Board of Peace. It's that Donald Trump is the permanent head of the Board of Peace.
That is correct.
When he's no longer president, he'll still have his little club.
The first chair of the board is Donald J. Trump, who will also be the United States representative. Those are two separate things.
Exactly.
And it's very clear that this is a Donald Trump organization, which will probably end, like most Donald Trump organizations, in tatters and tears. But somebody got that money. And I think that, going back to what we've been talking about all day, it's all about oversight. It's all about what your legislature does. So in this particular case, the United States, which is currently, I'd say, right on the edge of legislators finally starting to give up on Trump, there are the ones who are the complete sycophants who will be with him until they're absorbed into his skin.
Exactly.
But then there's others who have jumped ship, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who probably are just going to sit and watch and then try to build a new ship on slightly less fascist principles. And then you have people like Thomas Massey, who are like, hey, America is a pretty good idea. Maybe we shouldn't let it fucking go up in flames with this orange-faced cunt. So, but so you're like right now, you probably, hopefully, depending on how the midterms go, you'll probably see hopefully some oversight in probably the next 18 months about, where is the money for this? Where is the money from Venezuela?
Well, it's going to a secret Qatari account that only Donald Trump controls. That's perfectly normal.
Exactly.
Right? That's constitutional, right?
That's constitutional. So I mean, I don't think there's much to report from this Board of Peace meeting because it's completely, for now, irrelevant. And let's also remember that America is amassing the large strike fleet near Iran.
And we're going to find out in the next 10 days whether or not we're going to war. Which, that's how things should obviously work with the most powerful country in the world.
That's what the chair of the Board of Peace is saying.
Exactly.
The chair of the Board of Peace is saying, let's get ready to go to war. This is also the president of peace who can't.
No more forever wars.
No more forever wars.
Just one forever war. War forever.
Yes. Yeah. The one war forever full war.
So there you go.
For war's sake. What a time to be alive.
I know. But you know what? I'd like to leave us with a little spark of hope.
Sure.
A little bit of good news, if you will.
I would love to hear that.
Because democracy exists and rule of law is alive and well, just not in America, in South Korea. Because in South Korea, just I think yesterday, the court ruled on the sentencing of the former president of South Korea, who had basically launched a coup.
The president of South Korea basically tried to shut down. He declared a state of emergency in South Korea, and then said that he's going to shut down the legislature and that the army needs to get in the streets. And he tried to take over the country by force. And apparently nobody told the army because the army didn't play along, and the legislators got back into. They were blocked out from getting into the legislature. They got back in.
And then they scaled the walls outside of the Parliament building to get in.
And then he was put on trial. They impeached him. Put him on trial. And what happened?
Well, what happened was ex-president Yoon Suk-yeol was found guilty of insurrection. He was then sentenced to life in prison. So he's going to die in prison. Yeah. He's 65 years old. So, Now, the thing is, you maybe think, well, that's incredibly harsh, isn't it? Can you hold heads of state accountable for their actions when they commit horrible crimes in power and abuse their authority? And apparently in South Korea, the answer is, well, yes, fucking obviously. Now, the prosecutors had argued for the death penalty on account of the whole, you tried to murder the sovereign people and you missed. You come at the king, you best not miss, I think, is one of those phrases that you really should get taught in politics school.
It's called, you play the Game of Thrones, you either win or you die.
Exactly. And he lost. But, the courts decided that was a bit too much because he did not order the military to shoot people. And it's only because of that man is not going to get executed. And this is the thing. South Korea, when confronted with a president who attempts to overthrow democracy and establish a dictatorship, said, fuck you, you go to jail for life. Brazil, when it dealt with an ex-president who attempted to overthrow the country to establish a dictatorship, Brazil said, fuck you, go to jail. The United States had a president that tried to overthrow democracy and install himself as a dictator and hang the vice president. And America said, well,
what's the context?
Presidents are above the law, don't you know? They can't commit crimes. Any crime they commit in office, using their powers, abusing their powers, that's not a crime. You can't. And in fact, we should make him president again. You should do it again. Because two of the three countries I've just mentioned are democracies, Chris. And one of them absolutely isn't. And maybe it can be again, but it's going to take a hell of a lot of work.
Well, that's why I need to get out, register to vote.
Exactly.
And remember to tell your friends to vote and don't vote for MAGA. Because
Exactly.
MAGA doesn't want to let you vote anymore.
This is your last chance, people. Also, contact your congressional representatives and tell them to vote against the SAVE Act in the Senate. Because if you are a married woman, the SAVE Act means you can't vote unless you get a passport.
And passports cost money, guys.
They sure do.
Over $100. $160, $120, $160.
It's a whole thing. So unless you feel like spending a whole bunch of extra money and maybe having your right to vote stolen from you, maybe you tell your senator to vote against that shit immediately.
And it takes well over a month, maybe two, to get your passport sent to you.
Actually, maybe get your passport anyway, just in case. Yeah.
Right.
It's time to start taking action, folks.
Okay, then.
Yep.
So that's us for this week. And as always, I'm Dr. Silverstein.
I'm Dr. Armshaw.
And we are doctors.
Not doctors.
Good night.